For years, doctors, scientists, cosmetic experts, and cleaning brands have looked down on us every time we told them about some trick we learned from our grandmother. That's old-fashioned stuff. There's no scientific basis for it. Today, there are modern products that work much better. We've heard it 1,000 times. I've heard it. You've heard it. Anyone who has dared to say out loud that their grandmother cleaned windows with vinegar and a piece of newspaper has heard it. And it turns out, and I'm telling you this with data in hand, not with a hunch, that over the last 20 or 30 years, science has been confirming, one by one, the tricks grandmothers used before they even knew how to read a label. While we pay $20 for a spray with a strange name in English, they were doing exactly the same thing, better, and almost for free. My name is Hank, and today I'm going to show you 25. 25 tricks the modern industry would rather you didn't know, because every one of them replaces a product they charge you dearly for today at the pharmacy, supermarket, beauty store, or garden center. And at the end of the video, I'm not just going to leave you with the list. I'm going to tell you which 3 tricks you're going to put into practice tomorrow and feel the difference without waiting 2 weeks. Write them down. And before we continue, let me warn you about one thing. In this video, I'm not going to sell you the story that your grandmother was right about everything. Your grandmother was wrong sometimes too. Like all of them were. Like you and I are wrong, and like the next generation will be wrong. And I'll tell you when the time comes, without mincing words, because I care more about telling you the truth than putting her on a pedestal. A person who only tells you what you want to hear isn't taking care of you. They're flattering you, and we don't do that here. We're going to go through this in blocks. 5 tricks to clean your home for 1/10 of what you pay at the supermarket. 5 tricks to make your food last twice as long. 5 gardening tricks using things you are going to throw in the trash tomorrow. 5 beauty and personal care tricks any big cosmetic brand would want you to forget forever. And 5 tricks for everyday health problems that deserve a place here. Stay until the end, because trick number 11 is about something your neighbor pays for at the garden center every month, while you'll throw it in the trash tomorrow without knowing what you have. And number 19, which I'll give special attention to, is something the pharmaceutical industry patented in pill form gave a brand name to, and science confirms that your grandmother was already using at home before the word patent even existed. Subscribe to Hank's Greenery. Hit the bell. Here, we don't sell you smoke and mirrors. We tell you what works, what doesn't, and what Grandma knew without having to read it in any instruction manual. Let's start with the first block. Cleaning and home. 5 tricks for less than $5 that replace products you pay more than $100 a year for. Number 1. White vinegar for windows. The formula: half white vinegar, half water in an empty spray bottle. You apply it, dry it with a clean cloth, and the glass is left without lime scale, without spots, without streaks, better than any supermarket glass cleaner. And yes, it smells a little like vinegar for 10 minutes, but afterward it doesn't smell like anything, and the windows are perfect. Why does it work? Pure chemistry. The acetic acid in vinegar dissolves lime scale, mineral residue from hard water, and greasy kitchen dirt. It's exactly the base of many brand name glass cleaners, only without blue dyes, without artificial perfume, and without the plastic packaging you overpay for. The Math brand name glass cleaner. Between $4 and $7 a bottle, and with luck, it lasts you a month. White vinegar from the large supermarket bottle, $2 for 1.5 liters, and it lasts you half a year of cleaning. Number 2. Baking soda and vinegar to unclog drains. And here's one of the tricks that has made me smile the most when I see cleaning influencers online rediscovering it and selling it as if they had invented it themselves. Grandma's ritual. She poured half a cup of baking soda directly down the clogged drain. She waited 1 minute, then she poured a cup of vinegar over it. The thing started bubbling as if you had a miniature volcano under the sink. You waited 10 minutes without touching anything. And at the end, you poured an entire bucket of boiling water down. The clog you'd spent 3 weeks avoiding with a miserable face disappeared as if it had never been there. Why does it work? An acid-base reaction straight out of a basic chemistry textbook. Baking soda, which is alkaline, reacts with vinegar, which is acidic, and the reaction releases carbon dioxide. That mechanical fizzing loosens grease stuck to the pipe walls, hair, and soap residue, and the boiling water at the end washes everything down, while our grandchildren pay $8 to a plumber for a visit, or $15 for a bottle of a bright orange product with an aggressive label that shows up on TV. Your grandmother had this solved with 2 things that together cost less than $3. As a society, we're falling behind. Number 3, a cut lemon for faucets and copper. A quick but brutal trick. You take half a lemon, rub it directly on the kitchen faucet, on copper pots that have darkened, and on the limescale buildup at the bottom of the sink. Let it sit for 5 minutes. Rinse with warm water. Why? Citric acid. It dissolves limescale and rust, and it leaves a fresh lemon scent that any chemical product completely kills with its artificial perfume. Copper pots shine in 5 minutes without you having to scrub like crazy, and the bathroom faucet looks new for 20 cents, which is what the lemon cost you. Number 4, old newspaper for windows. After applying the vinegar from trick number 1, instead of drying with an expensive microfiber cloth, you dry with crumpled newspaper, and the result is glass without lint, without streaks, shining like a diamond. Why? The cellulose in newspaper is non-abrasive but absorbent, and modern ink, contrary to what many people think, no longer stains. For decades, it has been plant-based, usually soy ink, and not made with lead and heavy pigments like before. And before you tell me, but the newspaper gets wet and falls apart, I'll give you the trick within the trick. You crumple it into small balls, not flat sheets, balls, and it lasts through the whole kitchen window without disintegrating in your hand. Grandma knew this without anyone having to explain it to her. She had seen her mother do it, and her mother had seen her grandmother do it. Number 5, bay leaves against moths. 5 or 6 dried bay leaves, tucked into little cotton cloth bags and placed around the clothing closets, and a few leaves inside jars of flour, rice, lentils, and chickpeas. Why? Bay leaf contains eugenol and cineol. They are volatile compounds that clothes, moths, and flower weevils deeply hate. It repels them naturally without you having to put chemicals in the closet where you keep your underwear, which, said out loud, already sounds absurd, the math. Closet insecticides and commercial moth traps can easily cost between $8 and $15 per season. A bunch of bay leaves from the garden or the supermarket costs $2. And it lasts all year, and there are the first 5. If you apply all of them, you can easily save $100 a year on cleaning products. 100, just from the first block. And on top of that, you won't bring a single bottle of chemicals with unpronounceable names into your home. Let's go to the kitchen. Number 6, and here I'm changing my tone because it's time for the truth. We begin the food preservation block with something Grandma did wrong, or at least something many grandmothers did wrong thinking it helped, when it turns out It's exactly the opposite of what you should do. I'm going to tell you plainly because there are no secrets between us. Many people put an apple in the bag with the potatoes thinking the potatoes would last longer without sprouting. I've heard it 1,000 times, in 1,000 kitchens, told with all the conviction in the world. My own aunt did it. I remember it perfectly, with the brown paper bag under the sink and the apple in one corner. And it turns out that it's exactly the opposite of what you should do. The apple releases a gas called ethylene. It's the same gas that makes fruit ripen. Bananas release it too, and pears as well, especially when the fruit is already ripe. And that gas, when it comes into contact with potatoes, speeds up sprouting. It makes the potato sprout sooner, not later. Exactly the opposite of what people believed. What's the right thing to do? Potatoes and apples must be separated, far apart. The apple in a bag or in a fruit bowl. The potatoes somewhere else, cool, dark, dry, and well ventilated. And don't put potatoes in the refrigerator, because the cold turns starch into sugar, and the potatoes taste strange and turn brown inside when fried. Why am I telling you this in a video titled Grandma's Forbidden Tricks That Were Genius? Because I don't want you to think for even 1 second that I'm selling you the story that grandmothers were right about everything. They weren't. They were people like us, with enormous successes and honest mistakes. What they did have was a lot of experience, a lot of observation of what happened in their kitchen, a lot of trial and error over the years, and a common sense that we've lost. And that common sense, in most cases, was right. In a few cases, it wasn't. Honesty is the only thing that makes this channel different from the others, and that's why, when a myth comes up, I'm going to point it out. Let's move on to the next ones that are verified. Number 7, a slice of stale bread in the cookie tin. A slice of bread, already a bit dry, inside the cookie jar. The cookies stay crisp for weeks instead of going soft in 4 days. Why? The bread absorbs the ambient moisture that gets in every time you open the tin. And because the cookies don't have moisture around them, they don't go soft. When the bread is completely dry and hard, you replace it with another slice. It's that simple. Number 8, the lemon with the peel facing up. When you store half a cut lemon in the refrigerator, you place it with the peel facing up on a small plate. The cut side rests downward against the ceramic plate. It lasts twice as long without drying out and without oxidizing. Why? The peel protects the pulp from oxidation in the air, and the cut side, because it is pressed against the plate, is partially sealed by the lemon's own weight. The surface exposed to air is reduced to the minimum. This isn't magic. It's that Grandma observed. She saw what lasted longer and what lasted less in her refrigerator. She learned. And we, with all the modern refrigerators in the world, with humidity-controlled drawers and special cold zones, still don't know this trick that takes 1 second to think about. Number 9, fresh herbs in a glass of water. Cilantro, parsley, basil, mint. Instead of putting them in a plastic bag in the refrigerator drawer, where they rot in 3 or 4 days into a greenish mush, you place them in a glass with 1 finger's depth of water, as if they were flowers. You cover them loosely with a transparent bag into the refrigerator, and they last perfectly for 2 or 3 weeks. The exception is basil, which prefers room temperature and does better on the kitchen counter outside the refrigerator. It's sensitive to cold. Why does it work? Herbs are living stems. If you put them in water, they keep drinking, as if they were planted. If you put them in an airtight bag with no water, they die quickly and decompose. It's about respecting the nature of the plant, that's all. Number 10, cheese wrapped in a cloth with a sugar cube. Grandma wrapped aged cheeses, semi-aged cheeses, the ones that have been around a little while, in a clean cotton cloth, and inside the cloth, next to the cheese, she placed a sugar cube. The cheese lasted for weeks in perfect condition, without mold, without drying out, and keeping its flavor. Why? Sugar is hygroscopic. In other words, it attracts and absorbs moisture from the air around it, and mold needs moisture to develop. Without moisture around the cheese, there are no conditions for mold to appear. The cotton cloth also allows the cheese to breathe without drying out too much. And while special brand name cheese wraps cost you between $5 and $10 each, a sugar cube costs less than 1 cent, and it works better. No expensive waxed paper wraps, no need for zip-top bags. Food preservation block closed. 5 tricks that extend the shelf life of your food without spending a single extra dollar. And the apple and potato myth, share that one. That's one people need to know. Let's go to the garden, because there are surprises here too. Number 11, crushed eggshells. This is the one I told you about at the beginning. Number 11, the one your neighbor pays for at the garden center every couple of months, and you'll have it in the trash tomorrow morning after making an omelet. Eggshells, dried and finely crushed with a mortar or blender, sprinkled at the base of tomato plants, peppers, zucchini, and eggplants. Result, they prevent a very common disease called blossom end rot, which is the #1 problem in home tomato growing. That black spot that appears on the bottom of the tomato and ruins your harvest when they were almost ready. Why does it work? Eggshells are almost pure calcium carbonate, more than 90%. As they slowly dissolve with watering, they release bioavailable calcium into the soil. And blossom end rot in tomatoes is exactly that, a calcium deficiency in the plant. The cause is not a fungus, not a pest. It's lack of calcium, and eggshells give it to you for free. The math. A bag of calcium carbonate for the garden costs between $8 and $12. Fungicide for sick tomato plants costs another $10. Eggshells from breakfast eggs, free forever. And on top of that, you improve the soil in your garden instead of adding an industrial chemical that also kills the good stuff. Number 12, beer to trap slugs. And here I laugh a little, because the face people make when I tell them this for the first time is always the same. Beer? For slugs? Yes, for slugs. My grandmother did this when we had lettuce, and they ate it every night. She placed a small cup buried in the garden soil up to the rim, filled with cheap beer. The slug smelled the yeast, went straight to it, fell in, and drowned. In the morning, the little dish was full. Why does it work? Slugs are attracted to the smell of yeast fermentation. It's irresistible to them. They fall in. They can't get out. End of problem. And you don't need a toxin. You don't need a chemical product either. Just a can of the cheapest beer you can find. The math. Slug bait at garden centers with chemicals you don't want in your garden if you're going to eat the lettuce costs between $6 and $10 a box. A can of cheap beer, 80 cents. And on top of that, you don't poison your own vegetables. Number 13, basil next to tomatoes. Plant basil around tomato plants, interspersed between them. Result, the tomato plants produce more, better, and with fewer pests like whiteflies and aphids. Why? Basil repels some typical tomato pests thanks to its essential oils. It attracts pollinators like bees and bumblebees, and according to several studies on companion planting, it even improves the flavor of the tomato fruit when they grow together. It's one of the best studied examples of plant symbiosis in agriculture. Bonus, you end up with huge, fresh basil to make pesto in September. Double harvest from the same square meter. Number 14. Water from boiling eggs for watering. The water where you boiled eggs to make salad, once it is cooled, can be used to water plants, especially ferns, Monstera deliciosa, green indoor plants, and also garden roses. Why? During boiling, the water absorbs small amounts of calcium and minerals that come off the shell. It's a diluted natural fertilizer, and unlike chemical fertilizers, it doesn't create tolerance or toxic buildup in the soil. You use what you are going to pour down the drain, and you feed your plants at the same time. Number 15. Used coffee grounds for roses. Used coffee grounds, the ones most people throw in the trash every morning after their first coffee, sprinkled around rose bushes and at the base of plants that prefer slightly acidic soils, such as hydrangeas or camellias. Why? Coffee grounds provide nitrogen, improve soil structure by making it fluffier, keep slugs and snails away because they hate caffeine, and are slightly acidic. Exactly what roses need to produce more flowers and more intense ones. And if the 5 tricks in this block seem like too little to you, add this up. You can easily save $60 a year on commercial fertilizers, industrial plant food, and pest control products, all by using what you are going to throw in the trash tomorrow morning. And on top of that, you reduce waste in your home. Number 16. And here we enter territory where no cosmetic brand wants you to go. You've been warned. Olive oil as makeup remover. A couple of drops of extra virgin olive oil on a cotton pad. You pass it over, closed eyes, over your face, over your neck. It dissolves makeup, even waterproof makeup, those waterproof mascaras that cost $20 and then won't come off even with soap. Rinse with warm water and a little neutral soap. Clean face without tightness, without dryness. Why does it work? Modern makeup, especially long-lasting mascaras and lipsticks, is fat-soluble. That means it dissolves in fat, not water. And oil, through basic high school chemistry, dissolves lipids. It's exactly what many oil or dual-phase makeup removers do, the ones that cost $20 a bottle in beauty stores. Your olive oil has the same cleansing ability, without irritating perfumes and without strange preservatives. The math? Brand name makeup removers can easily cost between $15 and $25 a bottle. Extra virgin olive oil is already in your kitchen. 3 drops per use. Number 17. Natural yogurt and honey face mask. A simple homemade mask with 2 ingredients you have in the refrigerator. 1 tablespoon of plain unsweetened yogurt, ideally whole and not light, and half a teaspoon of raw honey. Mix. Apply to a clean face. 15 minutes. Rinse with warm water. Why does it work? Yogurt contains lactic acid, which is a gentle chemical exfoliant, what modern brands now call AHA, in products that cost $30 a jar. Raw honey is a natural humectant and antimicrobial. Applied regularly, once a week, it improves skin texture, reduces mild spots, and leaves the face looking rested. And while your neighbor spends $100 on a brand name mask with a French name, you have both ingredients waiting for you in the refrigerator for breakfast. Number 18. Coconut oil for hair. 1 teaspoon of coconut oil applied to the ends of your hair, especially if your hair is dry, dyed, or damaged by the heat of straighteners. Leave it on for at least an hour before washing your hair. Ideally, leave it on overnight with a towel on the pillow. Why does it work? And here comes the powerful scientific fact. There are studies published on hair oils in scientific cosmetic journals, and they show that coconut oil is one of the few oils that actually penetrates the hair fiber. Most oils only stay on the surface of the hair. They give the appearance of shine, but they don't truly nourish it. Coconut oil gets in, and it makes real, lasting changes to the structure of the hair. That explains why your grandmother, who put coconut oil in her hair from a young age, had shiny, strong hair until the end. And we, with 3 different brand name masks, still keep complaining about split ends. Number 19. Aspirin for a single pimple. This is the one I promised you at the beginning. The pharmaceutical industry patented the cosmetic version, but your grandmother already did it without knowing a single concept of chemistry. 1 conventional aspirin tablet, the cheap kind, crushed with 2 drops of water until it forms a paste. You apply the paste to a single pimple, the kind that shows up the day before a wedding. Before going to sleep, in the morning, the pimple is clearly reduced, the inflammation has gone down, and the redness has largely disappeared. Why does it work? Aspirin contains acetyl salicylic acid. In the body and in contact with the skin, it turns into salicylic acid, and salicylic acid is exactly, word for word, the active ingredient in many modern anti-acne products that you pay $15 or $20 for in a tiny 3-centiliter bottle at the pharmacy. The cosmetic industry has simply isolated the component, put it in elegant packaging with a minimalist label, and multiplied the price by 100. Important, responsible warning. This is only for occasional individual pimples. It is not for continuous acne treatment. It is not for people allergic to aspirin, and not for children, and never for the whole face, only the specific pimple. If you have serious or frequent acne, this is not the solution. You need to see a dermatologist. For the occasional adult blemish, it works and is practically free. Number 20. Chamomile to lighten blonde hair. Grandmothers with blonde hair, or the blonde girls in the family who wanted to keep their color during the summer, made a very strong chamomile infusion with 3 or 4 tea bags in half a liter of water. They let it cool, and they applied it as a final rinse after washing their hair. Then they sat in the sun for a while with wet hair. With time and sunlight, the hair became slightly lighter. No harsh chemicals, no bleaches that burn your scalp, no ammonia. Why? Apigenin and other compounds in chamomile have a mild lightening effect on hair pigment, especially when activated by sunlight. It's not aggressive. It's gradual. It takes weeks to notice, but it doesn't damage, and it leaves the hair shinier, not burned. And while the salon charges you $70 for highlights that damage your hair, this costs $2 for a box of chamomile tea, and you apply it yourself at home once a week. And it lasts. Let's go to the final block. 5 tricks for everyday health problems. Some are so simple they'll make you smile, but all of them have science behind them. Number 21. Cold water with salt for tired legs. Grandmothers, after a day standing in the kitchen cooking for an entire family, would sit in a chair with their legs inside a basin of cold water with a handful of coarse salt. 10 minutes. Then they would lie down for a while with their legs elevated on a cushion. And after a while, their legs felt like new. Why does it work? Cold water causes immediate vasoconstriction in the legs. It improves venous return, that blood that has to travel back from the feet to the heart, and that gets stuck with fatigue. It reduces local inflammation. The salt adds a mild osmotic effect that helps reduce swelling. It's the same thing any modern cryotherapy treatment does in sports clinics, but for 20 cents. Number 22. Blowing cool air on an immediate burn. You burn yourself on the pan. Automatic reflex. You bring your finger to your mouth and blow. Everyone does that without thinking. And it turns out Your grandmother wasn't wrong when she taught you that as a child. Why? Cool air over an immediate burn in the first seconds lowers the tissue temperature and limits the thermal damage that continues inside the skin even after removing the heat source. The same thing a cold stone or cold water does when applied immediately. But the air from your mouth is always available, anytime, anywhere. You don't have to make it to the faucet. A warning, though. This only works for mild first-degree burns, the ones where the skin is red, but there is no blister. Serious burns with blisters or broken skin require cool, running water for 10 or 20 minutes and immediate medical attention. Don't keep blowing on a large burn thinking you're going to solve it. Number 23. Chopped onion in the room during the flu. And here, again, honesty is needed. Traditional. A chopped onion on a small plate near the sick person's bed during the flu or a bad cold. Houses smelled like onion for days, but Grandma swore it helped. Honesty. The direct clinical evidence for this trick is limited. I'm not going to lie to you. There are no serious studies saying onion in the room cures the flu. What is documented is that the sulfur compounds in onion are volatile, they pass into the surrounding air, and they have antimicrobial activity in laboratory studies. Whether that activity reaches the air in your room in sufficient quantity to do something real is not scientifically clear, but I'll tell you what I think. I can't guarantee that this cures the flu. What I can tell you, with all the common sense I have, is that it doesn't hurt, that an onion costs 40 cents, and that when a sick person feels accompanied, cared for, with someone who worries about them enough to chop an onion and put it on the nightstand, they are already halfway healed. And that is science too. The medicine of affection works too. Number 24. Smelling dried mint for dizziness and headaches. You carry a small sachet of dried mint in your pocket, purse, or car glove compartment, or you rub a few fresh leaves between your fingers when you have the plant nearby and breathe deeply. For travel sickness in a car or boat, stress-related tension headaches, or a feeling of morning nausea, why? Menthol is a vasoactive compound. When inhaled, it produces an immediate cooling sensation in the nasal passages and a mild vasoconstricting effect that relieves tension headaches and the feeling of dizziness or nausea. There are studies on peppermint essential oil applied to the temples or inhaled for mild migraines with positive results. A mint plant in a balcony pot costs $2, and you have dizziness handled for the whole summer without taking pills. Number 25. Legs up the wall. And I'll finish with the trick that touches me the most. Personally, my grandmother, after a whole day on her feet cooking for a family of 12, washing clothes by hand, taking care of the grandchildren, would lie down on the living room floor. On top of a folded blanket, she would place her feet against the wall with her legs vertical, forming an L with her body. And she would stay like that for 10 minutes, sometimes 15. She closed her eyes. She didn't speak. She said it was the best rest she could give her body, that when she got up she was a different woman, and it turns out that my grandmother, without ever having read a yoga book, without having set foot in a gym in her life, without even knowing what the thing she was doing was called, was practicing one of the most recommended poses today in physical therapy, modern sports medicine, and restorative yoga. It's called Viparita Karani, the legs up the wall pose. It improves venous return in the legs. It rests tired feet. It reduces ankle swelling at the end of the day. It calms the nervous system after a stressful day. It helps you fall asleep when done before bed. and a lot more things that science has slowly confirmed one by one in serious studies. 10 minutes a day, lying on the floor with a blanket so you don't get cold, with your feet against the wall. And you rest more than you would with 2 hours on the sofa watching a series. It costs nothing. It requires no equipment. You don't need to reserve time in your schedule. And it's worth more than any brand name supplement, any anti-fatigue cream they can sell you, any product they put in front of you for swollen feet. My grandmother had never read a yoga book. She didn't need to. She knew what her body was asking for. And that's why she lived well to 90, lucid, walking until her last day. 25 tricks. We're done. But I'm not going to leave you now with the whole list and make you organize yourself, because I know what happens after a video like this. You close the screen, you forget half of it, and a week later you still haven't applied even one. We're avoiding that today. I'm going to give you 3, only 3, the ones that will have the biggest impact on your life tomorrow. If you only keep 3 of the 25, make them these. Trick for tomorrow, number 1, the food preservation block. The 3 together, the lemon with the peel facing up, fresh herbs in water, and stale bread in the cookie tin. 3 minutes of your life in total, and you start saving dozens of dollars a year on food that used to go bad and will now last twice as long. You apply this as soon as you close this video. In 15 minutes. Trick for tomorrow, number 2, crushed eggshells for your pots or your garden. Start this very week. Save the shells from your breakfast eggs for 7 days. Crush them. Spread them around the base of your plants, especially if you have tomato plants or peppers. In 2 months, you'll notice the difference. And you'll understand why your neighbor pays for expensive fertilizer while you have it solved for free. Trick for tomorrow, number 3. Legs up the wall for 10 minutes a day. Today. Tonight, before dinner, or before getting into bed. Lying on the living room floor, on top of a blanket, feet against the wall. 10 minutes. You don't need more. You'll sleep better from the first night. I promise you. 3 tricks. 0 cost. Total time per day, 15 minutes. And they change how you feel, how your food keeps, and how your plants grow. That's what Grandma did. No headlines, no gurus, no influencers. And that's what science, slowly, has been confirming. And now, tell me, which of these 25 tricks surprised you the most? The apple and potato myth, the one Grandma had backward? The aspirin for pimples? The legs up the wall? Tell me down below in the comments. And also tell me if there's any trick from your grandmother that I didn't mention. Something regional, something only from your family, something your mother taught you and nobody else knows? Maybe. With the ones I receive, I'll make a future video only with your contributions. I read every comment, every single one. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this, with someone who is paying too much for brand name products when they could be doing it at home, with someone who has a kitchen full of chemicals and doesn't know that 2 cheap things do the same thing, and better. Subscribe to Hank's Greenery and hit the bell. Here, we don't sell you smoke and mirrors. We tell you what works, what doesn't, and what Grandma knew without having read it in any manual. I'm Hank, and I'll see you in the next garden.